One of the big topics over the weekend, Naomi Osaka has withdrawn from the French Open and announcing on social media yesterday that she will take some time away from the court, one day after she was fined and threatened with harsher sanctions for skipping her mandatory media obligations. She, in a lengthy statement, said she never wanted to be a distraction. Her withdrawal is the best thing for the tournament, the other players, and my well-being. She also went on to say, I think now the best thing for the tournament, the other players, and my well-being is that I withdraw so everyone can get back to focusing on tennis, the tennis going on in Paris. I never wanted to be a distraction. I accept that my timing was not ideal and message could have been clearer. It just feels like there could have been some kind of common ground. If I said to both parties, here's a do-over. Let's go back a week. How about we do something closed doors where we have you come in. You want to have a representative in there with you. You want to have your family in there with you. Come on in. Let's talk about this, because if it's real what she goes through and it's depression, first of all, she shouldn't be playing in a tournament right now if she's affected, if there's something that is really affecting her. She doesn't play well on clay. She doesn't want to hear negative comments after a loss. There's a lot of pressure on her. She's very young. She makes a lot of money in endorsements. But I don't know if it's more than this. Is it player empowerment? Is it, the French Open saying, we're not going to let you wag the dog here? They're running a tournament, and these are the rules that they put in place here. But is there a way that you could have said, Naomi, why don't you pick somebody you're comfortable asking you questions? And this is a pool reporter. This happens at the Super Bowl. Peter King has been the pool reporter where he'll go, he gets to watch practice, and then he gets to report on that. But let's say Naomi is comfortable with somebody, and she can get quotes. It's a 15-minute session, and then maybe you can do that. Look back on what happened to Ricky Williams. Remember when he was with the Saints, he wore his helmet and a visor, but he had social anxiety. We had no idea what that was. It was like, man, Ricky Williams, what is wrong with him? And then, of course, Ricky decided that, he didn't want to play football. And then we looked at that. How do you walk away from football? Well, Ricky was doing what was best for him. That is 2004 that happened with Ricky Williams. Here's this great football player, but social media had not been invented, and he had social anxiety. I think you've seen a better outpouring of support for Naomi. Martina Navratilova, I'm so sad about Naomi Osaka. I truly hope she will be okay. As athletes, we're taught to take care of our body, and perhaps the mental and emotional aspect gets short shrift. This is about more than doing or not doing a press conference. Good luck, Naomi. We're all pulling for you. Steph Curry reached out. You shouldn't have to make a decision like this, but so damn impressive to take the high road when the powers that be don't protect their own. Major respect. That's from Steph Curry. There's a lot to unpack here. As somebody who has battled depression, I understand that. I understand if you feel a way, or, that she does, or she feels confined or trapped, and she goes to these press conferences and people keep asking these questions, the same ones over and over and over. And if she has social anxiety, I truly understand that. But you use the media, and you could use it to your benefit, and then you don't want the media. Do they ask the same questions over and over? Yes, they do. But I don't know if anything's really changed here. What is changed in the approach that you have with these press conferences? More pressure, more well-known, more famous. And I think the leagues are looking at all the other Grand Slam events. Said the same thing. Hey, we're gonna treat you the same way the French is here. Like you have an obligation. Or is there something she could have done that said, hey, can you have somebody who I'm comfortable answering these questions? And I'll do the 15, 20 minutes. I'll do a camp, maybe one day when I'm not playing, I get to go out and I get to give back. Like, it's about growing the sport. And certainly with women's tennis, growing the sport. And it's not all on Naomi, but she is the figurehead now. Remember Marshawn Lynch decided he wasn't talking? All right, find me. Go ahead. And this is about player empowerment, too. I think that makes, look at what's happened with the NCAA. It's about player empowerment, and it scares the NCAA to death. Now, all of a sudden, athletes, I remember saying to Tiger Woods years ago, why not just control all the messages you want to send out? You don't need somebody to sit down with you. And he has his own website, and you put out an announcement there. I get it. Does it make our job tougher? Yeah, but so what? Athletes use the media. We use athletes. We hope that we're getting information to give to you, the fans. And I think there is an obligation by these athletes. You may not be comfortable. How do we make you comfortable? My concern is you're going to have a lot of athletes who say the same thing just because they don't want to do it. And nobody wins there. I think the fans, the fans want to know, like, what happened? What happened in that moment? Whatever that is, I think the fans, deserve that. But we love to tell stories. It's not just a match. It's not a game. It's a story. You have times when you're going to ask, coaches have to have a press conference every Tuesday in the NFL. It's mandatory. And you're able to, and that drives the whole week with all of the networks, all of the content there. And that's why the NFL is king. The NFL is always in the news cycle. Tennis is not. And I think if Naomi had a do-over, you go to the French Open and you just say, can we make this more comfortable for me? I'm battling this. I deal with this. Now, she says, well, you don't want to go in after you've lost and then you just hear negative questions. And I'm paraphrasing here. Well, first of all, she doesn't lose very often. Imagine the player who's not very good who has to go in there and answer questions as to why they're not very good. Naomi is a great tennis player. But I think there's pressure. Nobody wants to hear. And I've been in those press conferences for decades now. I know what's asked, how it's asked. You're trying to get them to say something. You bait them. Not everybody has, altruistic motives here. And you might hit a sensitive spot. I get it. It's uncomfortable. But it just feels like there's a way that they could have salvaged this. And I hope these other Grand Slam events will look at these individuals as individuals. Not, hey, here's a blanket statement. This is how you're treated. And if you don't like it, we're going to fine you $15,000. Nobody wins there. And that's my biggest takeaway. I'd like to have seen her play in the French Open. And now you don't get that opportunity. If this is Serena Williams, do people react differently? Would the tournament react differently? I don't know. What if this is in another sport? A quarterback doesn't want to talk, feels uncomfortable. What if Patrick Mahomes said, I don't want to talk. It doesn't help me. I hear negativity here. And okay, I understand. But I hope it's viewed as individually, how do we make sure that we are doing what's best for our athletes, for the people who build our sport? And if you can't give me something here, then give me something over here. We can get somebody. Give me somebody, from a tennis magazine or covers the sport with the New York Times or whoever it is you're comfortable with. But we need to have you being on camera answering questions. We need that. Yeah, McLovin.
Do you think the market corrects itself in some way? Like the players who don't do press conferences will become somewhat irrelevant. Like I think of Cam Newton, and he puts all that effort into his fashion statements because he wants to go in front of the press
Yeah.
and market himself to some degree. But so I think a lot of these guys, like in the NBA, like I know they don't like doing it, but they also get a lot out of it, right?
Oh, I think you can use the media. I said years and years and years ago when players, they were told they had to get dressed up to go to a press conference. This is after Iverson and Steve Nash. And I said, why wouldn't you reach out to Armani or Joseph Aboud? Get a partner and get dressed up. They're gonna dress you up. You get to go in there. You can be a brand. And Dwayne Wade's one of the first that did that. And then now look at him. Most of these guys go to a press. Look at Tom Brady goes to a press conference. He's right out of a fashion magazine. You can use the media. Do you like the questions? No. Are there questions that are out of bounds that are? Yes. If you have somebody who monitors this, like I think that would help, that you have somebody who is there just to monitor the press conference to say, ask that in a better way, or that's not a fair question. Like maybe you could be a buffer, but I would never belittle anybody who goes through this, has social anxiety. I have somebody in my family who deals with that. It's really, really scary. And depression. I don't know how this affects Naomi. I hope that she gets help before she goes back and plays in a tennis tournament. I think that's the most important part of all of this. And maybe this helps. Maybe this, now she's let everybody know. You've unloaded this, and now the media knows. And maybe they're a little bit more aware or sensitive when you go into these press conferences.